Red Sox insider Rob Bradford is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the home oil and HVAC company that Greater Boston, the North Shore, and all of Cape Cod depend on. See McFarlandEnergy.com for more. And Rob is also brought to you by Shaw's and Star Market, perfecting the art of fresh. And he joins us on the Harbor One hotline this morning. Hey, Rob.
McFarland, hey everybody, how you doing? Hey, you guys talked about going out to dinner, so I've been asking Major League players this for the podcast about fake paying for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a fake payer, Greg?
What, you mean like when you start to slowly take your credit card out?
Oh, yeah. Well, it came up because we went out with the great Joe Kelly, who obviously makes a lot more money than we do. Mm-hmm. And Will Fleming had the master class of fake paying, the master class. like his 6'7" arms reaching. No, Joe.
Yeah,
no.
Oh, you let the other person put the card in the little delivery check thing, and then you say, "Wait a second, were you paying for that?" No, I want to.
What the bill's here? The bill, the dessert? What?
Were you just listening? Curtis is now declining the opportunity to meet Tom Brady on Sunday.
Wait a second. You're declining to meet the strategic advisor for Delta Airlines.
I know, Rob.
Yes.
And it really does pay me because I have questions about the diarrhea plane. But it's just a whole. There's a lot of reasons, but most of it is my psychosis. I don't want to have a bad encounter or struggle or have a moment that I will be unable to fix for the rest of my life.
Have you? Let me ask you this: Have you met your hero?
Yeah, I met you. I had a bucket list meet and greet at the All-Star game. Eddie Vedder, Eddie Vedder was, Theo Epstein was walking through the concourse with Eddie Vedder. Hey, Theo, and I didn't even look, and he's like, "Oh, meet Eddie." And I'm just, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it's just like, yeah. So that was. And I would imagine it would be the same reaction with Chris, right? You just don't know what to say. I have all these things, and you come away from the conversation, you're like, man, I missed so many opportunities to say so many things. So I hear you. I get it.
The best way I could describe it, Bradfo, is Gary Delabate always wanted to throw out the first pitch, and he totally butchered it, and it ruined his life.
Better
I'd
or
rather
worse
just
than
not
Greg's.
pitch and just stay home.
What have you gone through when you do that? What is the thing? Like for me, going back in time with Eddie Vedder, he sang the song for my father-daughter dance, right? And I'm like, would have thanked him, and I didn't. I missed that opportunity. So what would be your go-to? What would be the thing that you say, I got to do this with Tom Brady?
I want to tell him, I can't even do it here, accurately, that the first Super Bowl I was ever sober for was Super Bowl 51. If I hadn't been sober, I would have been passed out and thought they lost. Instead, I was able to sit up and watch the greatest comeback in NFL history, and that thank you to him.
See, I get chills when you say that.
But it's true, but now his sister can hear. She listens, even though she doesn't like you. And,
does Nancy still listen to the show?
Yes, she does. She reaches out from time to time. I know the family appreciates it.
I used to be very close with
the
family.
Tommy Trader shirts didn't really help your case.
Yeah,
that was Curtis's idea. That was Curtis's idea.
Yeah, right.
That was Ken Laird's idea.
Yeah, that was good. Ken's idea. Anyway, so I'm a mess, like the Red Sox in many ways.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to thank him for the pajamas that he revolutionized.
Those are some of the best PJs I've ever worn.
Oh, really?
They keep you cool all night long. It's unbelievable. They're recovery.
Whenever you wonder why commercials work, Courtney just walks in the
room. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this Red Sox team. They're hanging on to one game lead when it comes to not finishing last in the division. Alex Cora was on this radio station yesterday saying he feels like they're still in it. Are they still in it?
Oh, yeah, they certainly think they're still in it. I mean, that was all the buzz last night after the game, and they're like, oh, it's a big series, it's a big homestand, and I guess they technically are still in it. They're still hovering around. They've had some missed opportunities the last couple nights because they actually could have made up some ground. But I think that my takeaway is we're sitting at this weird place that we haven't sat all year, where you can still have that conversation about being in it, I guess, for postseason. But then the other part of it is the Yankees. Now, not finishing last. So when we have all these conversations about Heim and Alex and all of it, like if you finish last, I think it just takes on a whole new vibe. And the Yankees are coming on. The Red Sox are just hanging on. So, I mean, you're going up against the best team in baseball, one of the best teams in baseball. And if you come away from it like it has been against the Orioles, like you could be sitting there the next time we talking about, okay, it's not a couple of weeks out from being the last place once again.
Yeah, once again is the point with me. So if you're Heim Bloom, and we're going to talk to Heim Bloom in a half an hour, and this team finishes last, Yankees somehow pull ahead of you, which they're close to doing. And then what you have to show for your 4 years here is that you finished last, 3 out of 4 of them. How does John Henry continue on that path?
Well, you can't continue down that path. Like you can't. And you mentioned John Henry.
I mean the Heim Bloom path.
Right. No. Well, and this is what I said. I think before, where I'm not saying that Heim Bloom has to be let go, but there has to be different things done. And with John Henry, we've seen the course correction all over the place in the last 20 years. This is not how John Henry and that ownership group have approached last place finishes. It is amazing that they haven't had more of a course correction because, every time they finish last before, or something happened before, you lose an ace, you lose a slugger, you lose a Cuban baseball player, you get the next best Cuban baseball player in Rusney Castillo. Like, there's always that course correction, and there hasn't been that yet. But you have another last place finish, you have to do that. And I think that if you do keep Heim, then there has to be some semblance of change, whether it's the changing saying you got to be more aggressive in free agency. You can't win. You can't go into every trade feeling like you have to win at 80%, or or bring in somebody else, another voice, maybe a veteran voice into that front office, just to change how some of the things are done. Because we can talk about the farm system and everything else, but results are the results. And you cannot finish last once again.
Rob, I know that you recently talked with Alex Verdugo, and he said that he's had no contract talks with the Red Sox organization. What do you think his future is with this team?
I said before, I think there's a very strong chance that he gets traded in the offseason. The fact is that he still hasn't talked contract. There's been a lot of talk about, they put him out on the market. He might have been close to a trade for him heading into the trade deadline. And that makes some sense because if you haven't approached a guy who's going into a contract year at all about a contract, then that suggests that you don't have a lot of intentions about re-signing him or doing what it takes to re-sign him after the following year. So he's a good player, and I think that he could get a value in the offseason, certainly. But right now, I don't see any way around it. If the Red Sox don't deem him a candidate for an extension right now and haven't talked to him at all, then what kind of message does that send? And that's my point.
I don't know if it could get any worse, but if they do trade him, will that make the Mookie trade worse than we even imagined?
I think the Mookie trade got officially as worse could be when he came to Boston and had 7 hits. But no, I think we sort of know what that trade is, right? I mean, at this point, Alex Verdugo isn't going to be Mookie Betts. Connor Wong's a nice major league player that serves a purpose. But, the Mookie Betts trade is defined already. And is defined not just because of what they got back, but because what Mookie Betts is. He's whoever said it, he's a generational talent. He's a Hall of Fame player. And, they got back something. They got back Alex Verdugo and Connor Wong, who should be pieces of a winning team. They actually both should be pieces of a winning team, but the problem is that there isn't enough around them to have the type of winning team that people expect. And so, I think that we can't just keep hanging our hat on, oh, look at what they did in 2021. You can't do that. In all these years, when you make a trade like that by now, you would expect to be in the postseason at least this year. That year was almost sort of an aberration. You had to sweep Washington the last series of the year and then go on the run. But, you just, for the Mookie Betts trade to get back what you needed, to get back what would enter in the conversation of being a success, you would have to have overall team success more than you've had.
Rob, I am about 20 minutes away from asking Chaim Bloom if the Red Sox would be closer to a World Series next year had they traded at this deadline and last deadline. What do you think he says to that?
I think that he will say no. I mean, I think that he will say, well, it's all about, there wasn't the opportunity to get the right deals. And I'm just telling you what I think that he'll say.
Yeah.
And I think that, and he'll say there wasn't the opportunity. They were asking for too much. It's more important to build for the future. Now, the narrative throughout baseball is, like you said, about winning trades. About, you can make trades, but it's like, how much do you have to win them by? And so when you talk about James Paxton, was there a trade for James Paxton? Yeah, there probably was trades for James Paxton, but not on their terms. Now, it's impossible for us to say, oh, well, that was the right way or that was the wrong way in terms of a year from now, the next year. All I know is this, and I stand by it, and I've said it a million times, which is at the trade deadline, there were opportunities to do something, even in the slightest way, that I think would have helped the team that had enough talent, had enough momentum in a very, very flawed American League. But you went 3-15 in August after going 12-16 the previous 2 years. And so that was the problem. And I just feel like you didn't have to sell the farm at the trade deadline to actually make this team a little bit closer to the postseason conversation, which we really aren't having right now.
Well, Rob Bradford, as always, great to talk to you. We'll talk to you again next week, and we'll talk to Chaim Bloom and see if we can get some of those questions answered coming up at 9 during the front office report. All right, Bradfo.
All right, good talking with you. I'll be listening. Thanks.
I'm glad that you at least got to meet your hero, Eddie Vedder.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's a good one, right? It's a good one, isn't it?
You want to rejoin request? Shime's listening. Pick a Pearl Jam song.
Well, my daughter's dance song, my father-daughter dance, was a song called "Skipping," which you probably won't be able to find, but it'll make Courtney cry. I know it will.
All right.
So,
all right, we'll do that. We'll find it if we can find it. We'll do it, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See you.
All right.